What's up, everybody? Welcome to Generation Age. We got Carlos, Dylan, and Daryl. Today, we're going to talk about what we're looking for in the market when we're looking for buying properties, how we're holding it, if we're flipping it, if we can make the numbers work as a hold, what I'm personally doing with my portfolio when I'm looking at that strategy, whether I'm buying or holding or flipping, and how it's hard to cash flow nowadays, too. That's another topic. So is it worth keeping it if you're not cash flowing? We're going to talk about that. Don't forget, hit the subscribe, hit the subscribe,
Don't subscribe, bells, comments. Put your name in the comment section. Everything.
So first off, for me, what determines whether I buy and hold versus flip? Nowadays, with interest rates as they are, if the ARV is over $200K and it's a single family house,
hard to make it cash flow.
It's hard with interest rates as they are. It's hard to get approved for the DSCR loan first. Second off, if you do get approved, you're not cash flowing on that. So typically, if it's over 220 ARV, I'll usually always lean towards selling it most of the time, unless there's a special circumstance. If I'm all in, and then if the ARVs are like less than 180, I'll usually tend to try and keep those as a long term. Now, for me, if it's less than 180, let's say it's exactly 180.
The ARV.
The ARV is exactly 180, and that's what it appraises for. The loan is still going to be not that much lower than what I'm getting in rent. So that loan on the 180 at 7.5%, 8% interest.
You're like 1,200.
Oh, it's like 14. It's like 1,400.
Oh, dude, 14. Taxes,
all that.
Yeah. So, assuming I'm pulling out 75%, so 140. Let's say it's like $1,000, and I'm renting it for $1,200.
Yeah,
I don't consider that to be cash flowing in my portfolio in the eyes of me, just because
why not? Why aren't you considering that as a cash flow?
Because if you look over the aggregate of like 2 years of owning that property, let's say that's how it is, $1,200 rent, $1,000 mortgage. One vacancy wipes out the cash flow for that whole 2 years. First off, because you're still paying that $1,000 mortgage. And that's not including the turnover fix-ups that you have to do during that vacancy. So 1 month vacant plus whatever repair costs. Also, if they don't pay for a month, same thing with vacancy, then you have to do an eviction. That's 3 months. That means you're not cash flowing on that property for around 3 years, assuming all else stays the same with the rent and the mortgage. And then just simple repairs. An HVAC goes out, that's over $5,000.
Yeah.
That wipes out your cash flow for 2 years. Roof goes out, that's another $4,000 or $5,000. That wipes out your cash flow for 2 years.
Yeah.
So that's why, unless I'm making like $500 to $600 over the mortgage, I'm not expecting to be in the positive on that property over a 2 year period.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah,
Now, but what I am doing and why I am keeping them is because after, in the next 5 years, rent appreciation I assume it's going to keep going up, maybe at a 5%, maybe a little higher than that rate. So that $1,200 rent is now going to be $1,500 in 5 years, maybe even higher.
Yeah.
The mortgage payment is going to stay the same because it's on a fixed mortgage. And also you get the appreciation, you get the depreciation tax write-off. You get the appreciation of the property, you get the principal pay down. And that's kind of where I'm looking at it, because I'm looking at more of a long play. And that's why I still flip properties too, because I do need some active income on top of my rentals. I have some rentals that I bought 4 years ago that are doing a lot better today than they were 4 years ago because of the reasons I explained.
For the reasons that you're
bringing up
right
now.
That you're keeping them right now.
Yeah, because the rents probably went up 50% from when I had them 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow. In most of those properties.
Yeah.
And I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Are you guys looking at the same strategy for cash flow wise? Because it's hard to keep them nowadays. And
so it is a lot harder to keep them. I would agree and disagree, because for me, I gotta have that cash flow. I don't know. In the back of my head, I don't think I can accept $200 a month.
Yeah.
$200 a month just wouldn't do it for me.
So you wouldn't buy a house if it.
I wouldn't keep the house. I would buy the house.
You would sell.
But I would probably sell it instead, or maybe think Airbnb or something more along that line. Because I don't know if I could just be okay with.
What if you bought it? So in his scenario, the ARV is actually let's call it 240.
Yeah.
But you only get a loan on 140.
Yep.
So you have $100,000 of equity.
Yes.
But you're only cash flowing $200. You'd sell it?
That makes it easier.
You
It
would
makes
se-
it easier to.
But, I mean, it also makes
So-
it juicier to sell too, though, right?
It does. It makes it juicier to sell to where I feel like if I sold and I made that $100,000, I could go pay cash for $160,000 house or something like that.
Yeah.
And now you cash flow the whole $1,000
Yeah.
instead of. So I don't know. I mean, it's a catch-22. It just depends on how many flips we did that year
Yeah.
to where, and what time of the year did it fall in? Because if it fell in now at March, maybe I'm thinking differently than if it fell in at
Towards the end of the
November.
year. Yeah.
Yeah. In November, I'm trying to keep everything because I need depreciation and I need
Yeah.
write-offs.
Yeah.
Versus right now, I'm probably flipping it because we only flipped 1 or 2 houses this year already.
Yeah, during the season, during the good season. So
Yeah.
So if you're trying to get that spread that you said $200 isn't worth it, $200 over the mortgage, the rent over the mortgage. I mean, you probably aren't buying them or keeping that, aren't able to keep that many properties
Correct.
because the purchase or the all-in cost would have to be one.
Yeah. Or you're just more selective on your deals. And for me, my deals have been getting juicier, the ones I've kept, because they have good spreads.
Yeah.
So the
but
ones
you're
I'm
buying with less frequency.
buying with less frequency. Oh, I'm buying those houses. I'm just going to probably flip it instead of keep it at this point.
But you're also keeping more in the deal in those houses on purpose, or maybe
Yes.
not on purpose or not, to cash flow more.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And if you're willing to throw up 20 grand to have your cash flow be $400 instead of $200, that's worth it if you run your return on investment. Because I would want my return on investment to be in the 25-30% range for me to be able to keep it into the deal.
Yeah.
So
What are your thoughts?
I'm a slow, steady wins the race. I'm a hare, man. So
keeping it.
yeah, although it'll hurt. I mean, I've applied the strategy since like late last year. There were some houses that I was already buying that weren't going to like I was buying them with tenants in place, and I was at negative cash flow with them in place.
Wow.
And then once I refi, I'll probably be up $200 to $300, right? So like I'm on private money now, so I'm like negative cash flow in those. But then when I get to the other side, I'll be positive. But it's not that much. But I see it definitely a lot more as like in 5 years, 10 years, 7 years, it's not going to be
the same
$1,100-$1,200 for rent in that area. It's going to be $1,600.
Correct.
And then I'll only owe at that point. I'll owe like I don't know, $85,000. You know, so
I agree.
then it like really turns it around. But I was looking at the opportunities. Like I was playing chess, right? Like I was looking 7 years ahead, opposed to like, oh, it wouldn't cash flow down, so I'm just not gonna.
Yeah.
So I've been doing more of that lately.
Yeah.
It is a bit scary because like if you get a couple appraisals that don't work out, or if you have a tenant. I mean, with one of those deals, we inherited a tenant and the tenant's not paying. We're having to evict. So like there's a problem there, but I still feel like still a good enough deal. The condition of the house is still good enough that we'll go through the process. We'll get her out. Yeah. I'll go into long, hard money, 30-year fixed money, and then we'll
just wait it out.
And see, that scares me a little bit because literally one eviction can skew all of your numbers up.
Yeah,
and I don't know if I'm ready for that in my career to take on that risk.
So I was having this conversation with a friend, and he was like, "Yeah, I mean, not too many people can do what you're doing.
Yeah, correct.
Because they can't absorb the blow.
Absorb it, yes.
Right. So like maybe it's from a position of luxury or privilege that I can like. I'm really cash flowing on these properties, because I bought them in 2019, 2020. So like, and like you're cash flowing significantly better because you bought way back on some properties, so you can offset it.
Yep. So now they're making up for your lack of cash flow on this one.
Yeah. So in a way, like you're very cushioned here and razor thin here, but you spread it all out. Kind of works out, but you can only do that by so many times because you spread it out over more houses, it ends up getting thinner and thinner margins.
And that's kind of where I'm at, to where I would rather make $10,000 a month off of 15 houses than own 40 houses and make $10,000 a month.
But not in 5 to 7 years.
Correct.
In 5 to 7 years,
your wealth would,
your equity would be way higher on that. But it's just.
So I did the math. Sorry to interrupt. I did the math on if say for example, person A bought a house.
Yep.
Really good deal. So a 50,000 equity position.
Yep.
For each house. Person 1, and they only bought 4 houses, so 1 each quarter.
Yep.
And then I did the math on person 2, who only got a $25,000 equity position in each one of those houses. They bought 2 a quarter, so they paid $25,000 more
Yep.
for the house, opposed to getting a much juicier deal. Well, I think I did the math on 5 years or something. So in 5 years, person A, their net worth on those 4 houses was
With what appreciation? 5%.
Yeah,
and
I think it
is
was like
that
5%.
buying a house a quarter for 5 years, or just
No, just
one
for
year?
that year.
Okay,
just
just
for
that
that
one
year.
year.
Not
gotcha.
not compounding. So the net worth of individual A was $600,000. The net worth of
Yep.
individual B was $1 million.
Okay. Yes.
So it was like they got a much better deal up front.
Yes.
But over time.
But over time, person
Yeah.
B, although they bought not so good deals, they just dollar cost averaged.
Yep.
And over the 5 years, they ended up being a $400,000 difference,
But
almost
it's because
twice
they had
as much.
8 houses versus the 4
Yeah,
houses.
because
Okay.
because the appreciation was
Went higher.
fair
Yeah.
throughout over the 8 over just the 4,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So like over time, I agree with you, and some
Yeah.
people use that strategy and have like just 5 or 10 paid off houses,
Correct.
and it cash flows them
And
really
they're
well,
fine with
and
it.
they're fine with that.
Yes.
But then there are others that are like, I mean, I'm still young,
Yep. Same.
and I still see 20 years out, man. Like I'm gonna be
Yeah.
sticking around for a bit, so like,
Yeah,
why
I
not
agree.
put more sticks in the fire so I can eat more marshmallows? Fuck
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
See, I feel like it's the conservative and the risk in each scenario, because part of you does want to be conservative, and then part of you is like, we're still young, we can be a little risky and
Yeah.
keep buying, but you can't do that with so many times to where you're making $100, $200 a month. You
Yeah.
can't do that, and you have to really have 4 or 5 good cash flow houses to make up for that one to throw in there.
Yeah, but if you do a burr successfully and get all your money back out and break even,
Correct.
then you can do as many as you want, as long
So
as
that
you
helps.
buy them right.
Yeah,
And
and
do
you
the
keep
burr.
a little bit of savings aside in
Yeah.
case something does happen.
Yeah.
Which is why you're diversifying with flips more now, right? Or
Yeah.
like I think
Well, because
we all are,
Dilly
to,
never
like,
flipped. I mean,
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
I first met Dilly, he had never done a flip really, other than his first house. And
Yeah.
that was it.
Yeah, now just interest rates are a little tougher to cash flow. I mean, I still would take a deal with that only doesn't cash flow, I guess,
Yeah,
for 2 years, where the mortgage is only
Yeah.
a little bit less. But
just a hold.
but it's still even hard to find those deals nowadays. I mean,
Oh, I agree.
it's tough to get a house with ARV of 220 at a still decent deal where you can pull all your cash back out.
Yeah.
So now because this is what I do, and it might be what you're planning on doing, but now I flip so that if I have to leave $20,000 in the house,
You use
maybe
the
I can
flip
soften the blow by just
Same.
plugging in the money, and it's like, okay, well that was
I think that's the only reason I flip. I flip for one. The first flip always pays my living expenses for the year. The second, third, fourth flip just goes to buying more rentals, so I can afford to leave money into the deal, or if I have to. I mean, if I don't have to, then even better. But yeah, I think that's the only reason I flip. Flipping is fun, but it sucks at the same time.
Because you got to reuse that money once you get it.
Exactly.
yeah.
Reuse that money. Yeah.
Otherwise, it goes sands.
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
Yeah.
that's an interesting topic. That's
Yeah, it is.
definitely. Let us know
Bring
what
it
you
along.
think
Yeah.
on that topic. What are your thoughts? Are you changing your strategy? A lot of people are getting out. A lot of people are reshifting and moving their shells around. So, give us your opinion, your thoughts. I mean, I'm sure we missed.
I mean,
some
like,
really good
comment,
ideas.
please leave us your comments, because, he was saying,
Yeah.
feedback
Tell
is
your
how
friends.
we get these. Yeah. These topics.
Share and then tag your friend underneath. Maybe they can get a T-shirt.
Yeah. Ah, nice.
He'll take it off. Show your girlfriend. He'll take off his T-shirt.
Don't tell Jess. All right, well, that's it, boys. And
That's
this
good.
is Generation
Hey!
H.